Ladies and gentlemen, understand this. Success is not just about money, fame, or titles. True success is when people start copying you. That's when you know you've done something right. Imitation, though sometimes frowned upon, is one of the highest forms of validation. When others start to mirror your habits, adopt your style, or follow your methods, it means you've become a model worth studying. People don't follow noise, they follow clarity. They follow what works. And when your life, your results, your attitude become a blueprint for others, that's when you've crossed the threshold from being just successful to being influential. You see, real leaders don't chase followers. They set standards so high that others naturally want to walk in their footsteps. When you operate with excellence, consistency, and purpose, people take notice. They observe your discipline, your passion, your mindset, and they try to replicate it. That's not an insult, it's a reflection of impact. You've become someone who not only talks about change, but represents it. You've built something others believe is worth copying. That's the mark of success. Now, don't be discouraged when people begin to imitate you. Some might even take credit for what you created, speak your words, or mimic your approach. But don't become bitter. Be better. Let imitation be the proof that you're leading. And instead of getting stuck in comparison, use it as a push to innovate further. When people start copying you, that's your cue to rise to the next level. Don't sit back, move ahead. Because leaders don't stay still. They evolve. They create again. They innovate until their copies are outdated. Success also means becoming a cultural influence. You're no longer just working for yourself. You're shaping how others think, work, and grow. And that's powerful. People may never tell you directly, but when they adopt your values, your system, or your mindset, it's clear. Your life is a lesson, and they are taking notes. The beauty of this is that your hard work starts to echo. Your late nights, your persistence, your pain, it all starts to mean something to someone else. It becomes their inspiration. But here's the challenge. Stay authentic in a world full of copies. Don't become a version of someone else while others are trying to be you. Remain true to your voice, your vision, and your values, because your originality is your strength. It's what set you apart in the first place. And while others are busy copying what you've done, you stay focused on what you're becoming. Because true success doesn't settle. It keeps reaching. It keeps growing. So if people are copying you, smile. You're doing something right. Just don't stop there. Keep building. Keep dreaming. Keep leading. Because success isn't just what you achieve. It's who you inspire while doing it. Success is not measured by applause, titles, or how many followers you have. True success is when people begin to copy you. Not just admire you from a distance, but intentionally replicate your behaviors, routines, mindset, and even your ideas. It means you've impacted the world around you in a way that others now see your methods as valuable, effective, and proven. Imitation, although often misunderstood, is one of the clearest signals that you're doing something worth paying attention to. It's not just flattery, it's confirmation. It shows that what you've been building in private, what you've developed through struggle, discipline, and determination is now being noticed on a level deep enough that people don't just want to watch you, they want to be like you. You see, in the beginning, no one sees the long nights, the sacrifices, the failures, and the doubt. People often ignore you when you're planting the seeds, but they pay attention when the fruit begins to show. And the moment they see consistent results, the moment your work starts to make noise without you having to say a word, that's when the copying begins. people start asking themselves, what is he doing that I'm not? What is she doing that works so well? That's not competition. That's acknowledgement. It means your discipline, your choices, your persistence. They've built a life that others find worthy of emulating. That is a deeper, more lasting form of success. It's no longer about your goals alone. It's about your life becoming a reference point for others. But this level of success doesn't come overnight. It requires consistency when no one is watching. It demands faith in your path even when it feels lonely. Because before people copy you, they usually ignore you. They laugh, criticize, or question you. They don't understand your methods or your direction. But the moment your results become undeniable, the narrative changes. Suddenly, your habits are admirable. Your discipline becomes a lesson. Your work ethic becomes a model. That's why you must stay committed to your process, even when it seems no one cares. Because eventually they will. And not only will they care, they'll want to adopt your ways. And when people begin to copy you, don't let it breed arrogance. Let it remind you that your work has meaning, that your example matters. You've become more than a doer, you've become a teacher, even if you never said a word. Your life is educating others simply by the way you live it. That's powerful, but it's also a responsibility because people are watching, learning, and following. Your success has made you a leader, whether you intended to be one or not. And let's be clear, being copied doesn't mean being duplicated. No one can truly replicate your essence, your originality, or your spirit. What they copy is the structure. What they see is the surface. But your power lies deeper in your vision, your resilience, and your authenticity. So never fear imitation. Let it fuel you. Let it remind you to keep growing, because success doesn't pause when others catch up. It evolves. It stretches. It climbs again. So if people are starting to copy you, don't get distracted. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. And don't change just because they're trying to keep up. Stand firm, stay real, and remember, success isn't about being seen. It's about being significant. When your life becomes an example, you've moved beyond achievement. You've stepped into legacy. Leaders set the standard. That's what separates them from the crowd. While most people wait to see what others are doing, leaders move first. They're not trying to fit in. They're focused on standing out. They don't copy trends, they create them. They don't ask for permission, they pave new paths. And in doing so, they naturally attract followers. People begin to observe how they think, how they act, how they handle pressure, how they make decisions. And in that observation, something powerful happens. Influence begins. You don't need to tell people you're a leader if you're living like one. When your actions align with excellence, when your life reflects consistency, and when your work ethic outlasts excuses, people take notice. Quietly, often without you realizing, they begin to study you. They watch how you start your day, how you treat others, how you bounce back after setbacks. They pay attention to how you manage your time, how you respond to adversity, how you stay focused when distractions surround you. They see all of it, and slowly they begin to adjust their own behavior. They try to mirror the discipline you've built, hoping they can taste some of the results you've earned. That's not by accident. That's the impact of leadership. The truth is, people are not drawn to mediocrity. No one copies average. They copy greatness. They copy courage. They copy vision. And when you embody those things consistently, you raise the bar for everyone around you. You become the standard. Not because you asked to be, but because your results, your mindset, and your attitude made you one. That's the mark of someone who leads by example, not by title. And that kind of leadership has a ripple effect. It doesn't just influence one person, it inspires many. It doesn't just change behavior, it shifts culture. When you lead with purpose, people will want to know your process. They'll ask about your routines, your habits, your principles. But what they're really asking is, how can I become like that? They want the confidence you carry, the clarity you speak with, the self-control you've mastered. But all of that came from decisions, small daily decisions that you made long before the crowd noticed. Leaders become leaders long before anyone claps for them. They decide to rise when it's easier to quit. They choose growth when it's painful. And because of that, they earn what others admire. But remember this, as a leader, your example isn't just being watched, it's being measured. People are not only copying your strengths, they're also absorbing your weaknesses. That's why it's important to lead with integrity. Set a standard that reflects who you are, not who you pretend to be. If you want people to rise, you have to stay rising yourself. If you want others to grow, you must keep growing. Leadership is not a destination, it's a responsibility to continue evolving so others can follow with confidence. When you live like this, you don't have to chase recognition. You don't have to announce your success. You become the reference. You become the reason someone else believes it's possible. And that right there is what real success looks like. It's not loud, it's not boastful, it's steady, and it sets the pace. People will always follow what's real. So be real, be excellent. Be the kind of leader that doesn't just demand respect, but earns it through action. Because when you lead by example, the world eventually follows. Success is not always about what you accomplish personally. It's often about the influence you create without even realizing it. When you start succeeding on a meaningful level, something interesting begins to happen. People start watching. Quietly, they take mental notes. They study how you move, how you think, how you behave, and how you respond to the ups and downs of life. And before long, they start adopting your ways. They begin adjusting their habits, language, and mindset based on what they've seen you do. That's when you know you've crossed over from being just successful to being influential. Success, at its core, breeds influence. Influence is not something you can demand. It's not something you chase. Influence is something you earn. You earn it by being consistent when others quit. You earn it by staying true to your values when others bend theirs for approval. You earn it by pushing through days of failure, silence, and resistance. Over time, that consistency starts to speak louder than any words. It creates a magnetic pull, and the people around you, friends, co-workers, even strangers, start to lean in. They want to know what fuels your drive. They want to understand how you stay focused, how you manage stress, how you set goals and actually stick to them. And without even trying, you become a source of guidance. Think about the people you look up to, the ones who inspire you. You didn't just admire their results, you were moved by their example. That's the power of influence. When someone lives with purpose and direction, it gives others permission to rise as well. That's what your success can do. When you stay the course, you become a lighthouse for others trying to navigate their own storms. And even if they never say it out loud, they're watching and learning. They're slowly shifting because of the standard you're living by. But there's something even deeper about success breeding influence. It creates legacy. Your words might reach a few, but your life, your actions can reach generations. People are more likely to follow what they see than what they're told. So When your work ethic, your discipline, and your principles start to leave an impression, you're no longer just building a career, you're building a movement. You're showing others what's possible, especially those who once thought it wasn't. And here's the beauty of it. You don't have to be perfect to influence others. You just have to be real. People resonate more with authenticity than performance. When they see you getting back up after failures, when they notice how you handle pressure with grace, when they watch you pursue your goals with integrity, that's when your influence becomes powerful. It's not about pretending to have it all together. It's about living in such a way that others feel they can grow too. That's what makes success contagious. Influence is also responsibility. Because once you realize people are watching you, you start to carry yourself with more awareness. You begin to understand that your consistency isn't just for your benefit, it's for theirs too. You are now a reflection of what's possible. Your words matter more. Your decisions impact more than just your future. That's not pressure, it's purpose. It means you have the ability to lift others up simply by staying faithful to your path. So yes, success breeds influence, but not the shallow kind that fades when the spotlight moves. It creates a deep, lasting kind of impact, the kind that changes lives quietly, one decision at a time. The kind that makes someone believe they can be better because they saw you do it first. And in the end, that's one of the greatest forms of success, when your progress lights the way for someone else's transformation. Be worth copying. In a world where people chase followers, likes, and attention, the real goal should be to become someone whose actions, habits, and mindset are so rooted in excellence that others are inspired to follow your example, not because you ask them to, but because your life speaks louder than your words. Being worth copying means you live in such a way that your discipline, character, and work ethic naturally draw respect. It means you've done the internal work to build a life of value, one that doesn't need to be broadcasted, because it's reflected in the results you produce and the energy you carry. When people start copying you, it's not always because of your appearance or lifestyle. More often, it's your mindset they admire. It's how you think, how you respond to challenges, and how you stay focused when others get distracted. That's the part of success people want but don't always see. The part that took sacrifice, patience, and self-control. The late nights, the quiet mornings, the hard decisions when no one was watching. If you've built that kind of life, then you've become worth copying, not because you're perfect, but because you're real and consistent. Being worth copying is not about showing off, it's about showing up every single day. It's about rising with purpose, doing your best even when you feel like doing less, and making decisions that reflect long-term growth rather than short-term pleasure. People copy what they respect. And what they respect is someone who stays true to themselves in a world that keeps asking them to compromise. That kind of consistency is rare, and when it's present, it becomes magnetic. This doesn't mean you need to live to impress others. It means you live with integrity, and in doing so, you inspire others to aim higher. Your habits become a silent teacher. Your actions become a quiet motivator. Your life becomes a testimony to what discipline, faith, and perseverance can build. You're not chasing influence. It comes to you because you've built something real. And real is hard to ignore. But here's the truth. Being worth copying is not easy. It requires living by principles even when no one claps for you. It requires being patient with the process, trusting in delayed gratification, and staying humble through success. Most people want results. Few are willing to walk the road that leads to them. When you walk that road faithfully, even when it's hard, people notice, and even if they don't say it out loud, they start changing the way they move because of you. Being worth copying also means you take ownership of your life. You don't blame others, you don't make excuses, and you don't settle. You seek growth, you ask hard questions, and you stretch yourself constantly. That's what people admire most. Not perfection, but a relentless desire to grow and become better. That's what makes you a leader in your own right, even if you don't have a title. You lead with your choices, your energy, and your consistency. So if you want to be worth copying, don't look outward, look inward. Build yourself into someone you admire. Live in a way that if someone followed your exact steps, they'd end up proud of who they became. Not because you had all the answers, but because you lived with purpose, with passion, and with discipline. That's the kind of success that lasts. That's the kind of legacy that doesn't need to be shouted. It's lived, and then it's followed. Copying is a reflection of impact. It means that your actions have made such a deep impression that others now seek to imitate what you've done. This isn't something that happens overnight, and it's not something that comes from popularity alone. True influence doesn't stem from being liked. It stems from being respected, and respect is earned through consistency, effort, values, and excellence. When people copy you, it's often because they've seen how your discipline has brought you results, how your mindset has led you through challenges, and how your vision has produced a life that speaks louder than any speech could. When someone mimics your behavior, it means your way of doing things stands out in a sea of noise. You've carved out a lane that others now recognize as effective. Your life is producing evidence that your strategy works, that your commitment pays off, and that your approach leads to progress. People don't copy noise, they copy clarity. They don't replicate chaos, they replicate structure. If your way of living creates enough structure to guide someone else, then you are making an impact far beyond your own goals. Think of the world's most influential people, those who change the course of culture, business, thought, or personal development. What made them influential wasn't just their charisma or communication. It was the way they consistently lived out their truth in such a disciplined and powerful manner that others took notice and tried to follow. You don't become iconic by accident. You become impactful by building a life that others can learn from, and that's where true copying begins, not from envy, but from aspiration. It's important to understand that copying doesn't always look like flattery. Sometimes people won't acknowledge you. They won't give you credit. They might even try to outshine you using your own methods. But make no mistake, their imitation is a sign that your presence has created a shift. You've made them rethink how they move. You've made them question their previous habits. That's a powerful indicator that your influence has quietly done its work. And it doesn't need applause to be valid. Real impact is felt, not always celebrated. Your example becomes a silent teacher. And as more people begin to align with your way of thinking and doing, your impact grows without you even needing to say a word. That's the beauty of authenticity backed by consistency. It doesn't need to campaign for attention. It earns it. When you live with integrity, others want to figure out how you've done it. They want the peace you carry, the direction you walk in, the confidence you lead with. So they copy, hoping some of your structure becomes theirs. This is why it's essential to stay true to yourself. When you become aware that others are watching and emulating you, it's not a signal to become performative, it's a call to become more grounded. You don't have to impress anyone. You simply have to continue being the best version of yourself, because the impact you're making goes deeper than you think. You're influencing not just behavior, but belief. You're showing others by example that a different standard is possible. So when people start copying you, see it for what it is: the evidence that your life has power. You've reached beyond words into the realm of transformation. And even if your name is never spoken, your influence is being lived out in the decisions others are making. That's the quiet force of success. It doesn't always need a microphone. Sometimes it just needs the right observer to carry it forward. And in that ripple, your legacy grows. There comes a point in your journey when you no longer need to speak about what you're doing, because your results begin to speak for you. That's when people start copying you. Not because you told them to, not because you asked for recognition, but because the way you live, work, and carry yourself becomes undeniable. Your consistency becomes rare. Your focus becomes admirable. Your success becomes visible, and your actions become a quiet blueprint others try to follow. That's when you know you've made it beyond personal victory. You've entered the realm of silent leadership. People often confuse success with status. They chase approval, applause, and temporary achievements, but real success goes deeper. It builds influence over time, and one of the strongest signs of that influence is when others begin to imitate you. Not just on the surface, but in the deeper layers: how you think, how you stay calm under pressure, how you show up on days when motivation is low. That's the kind of success that transforms people. Because when someone chooses to mirror you, they're silently saying, "I believe the way you're doing it is worth following." But this type of influence doesn't come from shortcuts. It comes from years of doing what others avoid. It's the outcome of showing up early, staying late, saying no to comfort, and yes to responsibility. While others were distracted, you were focused. While others were doubting, you were building. And now that the results are evident, they want to know the formula. The very people who may have once doubted you now look to you as a model. That's the irony of success. It turns skeptics into students. And yet, being copied isn't something to take lightly. It means your life now has reach. It means people are listening, not just to your words, but to your decisions. You've become a reference point, whether you wanted to or not. That's why staying grounded is so critical. Don't let attention dilute your purpose. Stay anchored in what got you there in the first place: your values, your vision, your discipline. Because when people are drawing from your example, your responsibility deepens. You're not just leading yourself anymore. You're paving a way for others. This is also why you must be mindful of how you carry yourself when success arrives. Don't let ego creep in. Remember, people are copying your spirit, not just your success. If you stay humble, they learn humility. If you stay kind, they copy compassion. If you stay true to your principles, they begin to live with purpose too. You're shaping more than habits. You're shaping mindsets. That's the kind of impact that goes far beyond personal gain. And know this: being copied is not a threat. It's not something to fear or guard with insecurity. It's a compliment of the highest form. It's proof that your journey has created something valuable. You didn't just win, you influenced. You didn't just rise, you pulled others up without even knowing. That's the highest level of success, when your example becomes someone else's turning point. So keep building, not for attention, but for legacy. Keep working, not for approval, but for impact. Keep walking your path with clarity and courage, knowing that somewhere, someone is watching you and choosing to change their life because of what they see. That's what success really looks like. It's not loud, but it's lasting, and its reach goes further than you'll ever know. Success is a quiet revolution. It begins within through mindset, commitment, and choices, and over time it begins to echo in the world around you. At first, no one notices. You work in silence, you struggle in private, and you sacrifice behind closed doors. There's no praise, no applause, no spotlight, just discipline and patience. But eventually something begins to shift. People start paying attention, not because you shouted, but because you showed up. Not because you demanded respect, but because you earned it. And without saying a word, your life becomes an example. That's when people start copying you. They start asking what time you wake up, what books you read, how you structure your day. They watch your habits, your routines, and your energy, not out of jealousy, but out of curiosity. They want to tap into what you've built. They want the focus you have, the peace you carry, the momentum you've earned. And they start to shift, quietly adjusting their lives to reflect what they've seen in you. That's not coincidence, that's impact. It's a powerful reminder that success isn't just about what you gain. It's about what you give without even realizing it. The greatest influence isn't always spoken, it's lived. And when others begin to walk differently because of how you've walked, you've stepped into true leadership. Not the kind with titles or awards, but the kind that transforms people from the inside out. The beauty of this influence is that it's built on authenticity. You don't have to pretend to be perfect. You just have to be real. People aren't inspired by flawless lives. They're inspired by growth, by persistence, by those who fall and rise again. When they see you move forward despite fear, when they see you remain kind in the face of stress, when they see you stay consistent even when progress is slow, that's when they begin to believe that change is possible for them too. You've become proof that success is possible through integrity. But this influence brings responsibility. When people start copying you, they're trusting your direction. They're modeling their behavior after yours. That means your choices don't just affect your future, they affect others too. That's why leadership through example matters. You have to stay true to your principles, keep growing, keep learning, don't get complacent, because every time you take a step forward, you give someone else the courage to do the same. At the same time, don't be discouraged if people copy you without giving credit. That's not the point. You're not here to be admired. You're here to be impactful. And impact doesn't need validation. It creates silent ripples that often reach places you'll never see. Someone may become more disciplined because of a conversation they overheard. Someone may start their business after watching your consistency online. Someone may heal because of how you handled adversity. That's the kind of success that leaves a legacy. Quiet, steady, and deeply transformational. So keep going, keep refining your habits, keep walking your path with grace and purpose. Whether you realize it or not, you are setting a standard for others to follow. You are becoming a map for someone else's breakthrough. And one day, they'll look back and realize it wasn't your words that changed them, it was your example. That's when you know you've achieved something greater than success. You've built influence. You become a blueprint. And that's a legacy worth building. When people begin to copy you, it's a sign that you've built something real, something tested, something strong enough to withstand time, pressure, and scrutiny. It means your results have become louder than opinions. It means the way you carry yourself, the habits you've established, and the mindset you've nurtured are now shining so brightly that others can't help but take notice. And more than notice, they begin to replicate. This isn't flattery, it's confirmation. It's proof that the foundation you've laid is solid enough to support not just your own journey, but to inspire the journeys of others. Success that is worth copying isn't superficial. It's not about flashy appearances or short-term wins. It's about the structure behind the scenes, the unseen battles you've overcome, the discipline to keep showing up day after day, especially when no one was watching. It's about mastering your emotions, sharpening your focus, and committing to growth, even when it was uncomfortable. That's the version of success that becomes a model. And when others start to mirror it, that's your impact being multiplied in real time. People don't copy noise, they copy clarity. They are drawn to individuals who know who they are, where they're going, and how they plan to get there. That level of clarity is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are lost in distractions, trapped in self-doubt, or waiting for permission to take action. But when they encounter someone who moves with certainty, someone who makes decisions with purpose and lives with vision, it sparks something inside of them. They begin to believe they can do the same. That's why your example matters more than you think. The ones who copy you may never tell you. They might not express their admiration or explain their decision to imitate your ways. But watch closely and you'll see the signs. They start dressing differently, speaking with more confidence, waking up earlier, reading the books you mentioned, or adopting your mindset toward growth. And while some might call it imitation, it's really transformation in progress. You've become a silent mentor, a model of what's possible. You've proven through your life that another level is reachable. What's powerful about this is that you don't have to try to influence others. It happens naturally. When you lead yourself well, others follow. That's why it's so important to stay true to your process. Don't let outside noise sway your standards. Don't let criticism make you question your calling. Keep doing what works. Keep refining your habits, upgrading your thinking, and building your vision, because someone somewhere is drawing strength from your example. And even more importantly, don't let success become a mask. Stay authentic. People can copy your actions, but they're also absorbing your attitude. If you lead with pride, they'll replicate arrogance. But if you lead with humility and grace, they'll absorb character. Your energy teaches more than your words ever could. So show them how to win with gratitude. Show them how to rise with integrity. Show them how to succeed without losing themselves in the process. When people copy you, it's not about ego, it's about responsibility. It means your light is strong enough to guide others. It means your journey has created a path others now feel safe to walk. That's what legacy really is. Not the trophies you collect, but the lives you help shape along the way. So keep building, keep growing, keep becoming someone who is not just successful, but worth following. Because every step you take with purpose becomes a step others will take with hope. And that ripple will go farther than you could ever imagine. Success is often misunderstood. People think it's about reaching the top, standing out, or being celebrated. But true success, the kind that leaves a legacy, is much quieter and more powerful. It's the kind of success that doesn't shout, it speaks through consistency. It doesn't boast, it simply is. And one of the clearest signs that you've reached this level of success is when people start copying you. Not because you asked them to, not because you posted about your achievements, but because the way you live, the way you move, and the way you think has started to influence others on a deep, unconscious level. When someone copies you, It means they've been watching. Not in the shallow way that fans watch celebrities, but in the way that students observe masters. They've seen how you handle pressure. They've seen how you maintain your values. They've noticed your work ethic, your discipline, your self-control. And without even realizing it, they begin to mirror the patterns that made you who you are. That is success. Not just personal gain, but the ability to transfer belief to others. Belief that growth is possible, that greatness can be built one choice at a time. You didn't get here overnight. You've been through the pain of transformation, the frustration of failure, the grind of repetition. You've built a mindset that doesn't depend on motivation, but on discipline. And while the world was busy chasing shortcuts, you were laying bricks quietly, consistently. And now the structure is visible. Now the foundation is clear, and people want to know how you did it. That's why they copy you, because you've built something worth replicating. But let's be clear, being copied isn't always comfortable. Sometimes people will imitate your moves without giving credit. They'll borrow your energy, your style, even your words, and try to make them their own. That can feel frustrating, even disrespectful. But here's the truth. Imitation is still validation. It's proof that you've set a standard. It means your way of doing things has become a model. And if you can look past the ego, you'll see it for what it really is, a reflection of your influence. This influence gives you power, but it also gives you responsibility. If others are modeling their lives after yours, you must be careful what message you're sending. Are you showing them how to rise with integrity? Are you demonstrating how to face challenges with grace? Are you revealing what it means to be successful and still stay grounded? Because people aren't just copying your routines, they're absorbing your character. You're shaping not only habits, but values. So don't take this lightly. If people are following your example, give them something real to follow. Don't fake strength, build it. Don't pretend to be wise, pursue wisdom. Be the kind of person you would want to follow. Lead with truth, lead with humility, lead with vision. Because those who are watching you may never tell you they're watching, but they're taking notes. They're learning from your every move. And your example may be the very thing that helps them change their life. That's what success really is. Not what you gain, but what you give without even realizing it. The lives you touch without trying, the inspiration you spark just by being yourself. So keep building, keep rising, keep living your truth, because in a world full of noise and confusion, authenticity is rare. And when you live with clarity, others will follow, not because you told them to, but because you showed them how. When people start copying you, it's a powerful reminder that success is not just about your achievements, it's about your influence. You can't fake real impact. You can buy attention, but you can't buy authenticity. And when others begin to imitate your habits, your mindset, and even your presence, that's not just flattery. That's proof that what you've built carries value. It shows that you've done the work, created a path, and walked in a way that made others stop and think, if they can do it like that, maybe I can too. That is when your success moves beyond personal fulfillment and begins to ripple into the lives of others. This form of success doesn't come from trends or overnight hype. It comes from showing up when it wasn't easy. It comes from staying disciplined when no one was watching. It's born from the days you didn't quit, even when quitting looked easier. That's the part people don't always see. The backstory behind the confidence, the struggle behind the certainty, the hours of failure behind the victories, but eventually your consistency becomes visible. And when it does, others begin to take notice. They see not just what you've built, but how you built it. And then the copying begins. Sometimes they copy the obvious things, your words, your routine, your appearance. But often it goes deeper. They start copying your decisions, your perspective, and your response to challenges. They study your calm under pressure, your drive in silence, your refusal to settle. They don't always ask questions. They don't always acknowledge you. But the shift is happening. You've become a living example of what's possible. That's the true sign of success, when your life teaches without you having to preach. But with this silent influence comes a deeper calling. Because when people are learning from you, you have to be intentional. You're no longer just shaping your own destiny, you're indirectly shaping theirs too. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It means you need to be aware that your actions are louder than any advice, aware that your habits may one day become someone else's foundation. That's why it's important to stay aligned with your values, stay rooted in integrity, because the success that lasts is the success that's built on truth. Understand too that copying isn't always an imitation of your greatness. Sometimes it's a reflection of someone searching for their own identity. They see something in you they admire, and they borrow it to build themselves. That's not theft, it's transformation in progress. It means your breakthrough might be the beginning of theirs. Your courage might spark someone else's bold step. Your growth might awaken growth in them. That's how powerful your life can become when it's lived with intention. And when you notice people emulating you, don't let pride distort your purpose. This is not about being superior, it's about being responsible. You've earned the right to be followed. So now lead well. Continue to evolve. Don't just settle into what works. Keep discovering what's better. Keep refining who you are. Because as you rise, others will rise with you. And the higher you go, the more eyes will be on you. Not for applause, but for direction. Success, in its purest form, is not a trophy. It's a torch. And when people begin to copy you, it means your flame is bright enough to light the way for others. That's not just success, that's legacy. It's proof that your life matters, not just for what you've done, but for what you've inspired others to become. When people begin to copy you, it's one of the most underrated signs that you're doing something right. It's not about being famous or loud or having millions of followers. It's about influence. It's about the way you show up daily with a certain energy, focus, and intention that others quietly admire. You may not even be aware of it, but your consistency, your discipline, and your progress have started to plant seeds in the minds of those watching, and those seeds are beginning to grow. That's when imitation begins, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Not because you told them what to do, but because you showed them what's possible through your actions. People are always observing, whether they say it out loud or not. They watch how you handle setbacks. They observe your work ethic, your mindset, and your ability to remain steady when life gets chaotic. They see the calm in your storm, the silence in your grind, and the fire in your vision. And slowly, they begin to take pieces of your behavior and apply it to their own life. That's not just copying, it's a form of learning. It's a human instinct to model what works. And when your life becomes the model, you've crossed over from just being successful to being impactful. But understand this kind of success isn't about trends or popularity. It doesn't come from doing what's flashy. It comes from doing what's right, even when it's not recognized. It comes from staying true to your path when distractions surround you. It comes from holding yourself to a higher standard when no one is around to praise you. That's what people are really copying. They're not just trying to replicate your results. They're trying to absorb the process that got you there. And if your process is grounded in integrity, strength, and perseverance, you're teaching something far greater than surface level success. That's why leadership through example is so powerful. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth. You don't have to shout your success from the rooftops. Just live in a way that makes people pause and reconsider their own habits. Let your discipline be louder than your words. Let your focus be more consistent than your posts. Let your journey speak so clearly that people don't need explanations. They just feel compelled to change. When people start copying you, take it as confirmation that your life is working as a silent teacher. But also take it as a responsibility. Because influence, whether asked for or not, comes with weight. If people are modeling themselves after you, then you owe it to them to keep growing. You owe it to them to stay grounded, to stay learning, and to stay aligned with the values that brought you this far. The worst thing you can do is let their admiration inflate your ego. Stay humble, stay hungry. Let your influence be a platform that elevates others, not a pedestal that isolates you. Also, be generous with your knowledge. You don't have to hide your steps or guard your growth. Real success multiplies. When people copy you, let them. In fact, help them. Share the principles that shaped you. Teach what you've learned. Encourage their progress. Because when you lift others, you lift yourself. That's how you create legacy, not just by being followed, but by creating more leaders. So if you've noticed people watching you, studying you, even copying you, don't be annoyed. Be honored. It means you've become a source of inspiration. You've become proof that greatness is achievable. And in a world where most people are afraid to start, you've become the evidence that persistence, discipline, and self-belief can truly change a life. Success is not always recognized by applause or rewards. It's often reflected in the subtle ways others begin to change because of your example. One of the clearest indicators of true success is when people start copying you. Not because they were told to, but because something about the way you live, work, and carry yourself speaks louder than any motivational speech. They observe your discipline, your habits, your mindset, and they begin to mirror it. That's not just a compliment. That's confirmation that your life has become a blueprint for others trying to find their way. When people start copying you, it's not about ego. It's not about feeling better than anyone else. It's about understanding that you've stepped into a position of influence. People copy what they respect. They copy what they believe will bring them closer to their own goals. And when your lifestyle becomes something they want to emulate, it means you've built something real, something stable, something worth following. They're not just attracted to your success, they're drawn to your process, to the way you handle adversity, to the way you stay focused, to the quiet strength that you carry. But this form of influence is built over time. It doesn't happen after one good week. It happens when you show up with consistency, day after day. When you choose the hard path over the easy one and keep moving forward regardless of the obstacles. When you carry yourself with humility, not just when you win, but especially when you lose. It's in those moments of integrity that people start taking mental notes. They start watching how you respond, how you recover, how you endure. And over time, they begin to imitate that strength, that resilience, that vision. The people who copy you may not even realize they're doing it. They might start waking up earlier because they noticed you always begin your day with purpose. They might start planning their goals more intentionally after hearing how you structure your time. They might develop better discipline in their own routine simply because you modeled what that looks like without needing to say a word. That is influence. That is success doing its quiet, transformative work. And while some may imitate your style or speech without understanding your substance, don't let that distract you. Imitation without depth eventually fades. What lasts is the real impact when someone takes your example and uses it to build a stronger version of themselves. That's what matters. Not the surface level mimicry, but the deep shift it causes in someone's behavior and mindset. You become part of their transformation story, and often you won't even know it. This is why it's so important to keep growing, because the moment you stop improving, you stop inspiring. You have to keep pushing forward, not just for your sake, but for everyone silently following your lead. You may never meet them. They may never tell you how much you changed them, but they exist, and your journey is shaping theirs in ways you can't imagine. So don't downplay your progress. Don't dismiss your habits as ordinary. The very things you fought to master, discipline, focus, consistency, are what others are searching for. You've become a light for someone else's darkness, a map for someone else's confusion. When people copy you, take it as a signal. What you're doing matters. Who you are becoming is not just changing your life, it's giving others permission to change theirs. And that, more than anything, is the kind of success worth striving for.